But I mastered that style. It's like the 5 deadly venoms. So all he had to do was get next to a nigga like that, he could destroy him.
Believe in that, for real. We plan to take the same strategy we use with Death Row West, mind over matter, taking all our weaknesses and make it into our strength. That all these people talk about an East Coast, West Coast war, they like the Judas was to Jesus. They only here to cause confusion. We here to bring money and to bring change. They here to cause confusion. All these weak rappers, Nas, all these suckers, they battling off of East and West like this is a game. This ain't no game. If this was chess, we'd be yelling checkmate 3 years ago, because we've been beat these. It's not a game.
Staring at the world through my rear view. Just looking back at the world from another level. You know what I mean? Staring. Multiple gunshots fill the block, the fun stops. Niggas is calling cops, people shot, nobody stopped. I wonder when the world stopped caring. Last night 2 kids shot, while the whole block staring. I will never understand this society. First they try to murder me, then they lie to me. Product of a dying breed, all my homies trying weed. Now the little baby's craze raced off in the seed. Tell me when my enemies flee when they see me. Believe me, even thugs gotta learn to take it easy. Listen. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. I come to you resurrected. Thug Life, Outlaw, West Side Immortal, EGOVELI, and I told you this video was coming. Let me get right into it and talk about the topic of the hand, which is HBO. Now, I'm a longtime boxing fan, probably longer than some of you guys have been watching boxing. That's not a jab. I just know how long I've been on this earth and watching, you know what I'm saying? So I've seen fighters come and go. I've seen people who were supposed to be the next big thing and then they fell apart, or the party life, whatever the situation is. Now, I got to talk about HBO. I watched the Bradley versus Rios card. That was a fun fight. Check out my post-fight if you want more on that particular fight. But on the undercard, they had Vasyl Lomachenko versus, I don't even remember the guy's name. I'm not going to even try to pronounce. If you guys want, you can Google it and find out who this opponent is. Now, this is the problem. And when it comes to me, I don't have anything against these fighters. Hopefully I get to work with all these guys at some point. And this is the difference between me and them. This is not an agenda. I like Lomachenko. I've promoted Lomachenko. I have put people onto Lomachenko. If you don't believe me, check my track record. Go on my channel. And I'm not talking, and see, this is the thing. If everybody is doing something, it makes me want to do the opposite. Like everybody, I have no tattoos because everybody start getting tattoos. It makes me not want to get tattoos. That's just how I am as a person. So I don't really like bandwagon. I don't need someone to help me think. I know what I see. I can interpret. I can visualize. I can analyze and compute the information that I see. I don't need someone to think for me. But what HBO tries to do is they try to force certain fighters down our throats. They try to manipulate the public. They try to throw their agenda out. And I understand from a business perspective, because some people don't understand boxing ego. This is a business. You know what I'm saying? And I understand you have to, you want to promote fighters, or you have a good working relationship with Top Rank or whatever X, Y, and Z fighter. That's cool. I have no, do your thing, make your money. But when it becomes to the point where it's like excessively biased and you're trying to force feed us something and there's so many double standards, that's when EGOVELI got to step in. And that's what I want to talk about in this particular video. Again, check my track record. Vasyl Lomachenko, hell of a fighter. I made videos and I said there's shades of a lot of different fighters, from greats like Willie Pep to Floyd Mayweather. This is like 11 months ago, a year ago. I'm saying happy birthday and check out Vasyl Lomachenko. Other people weren't talking about Lomachenko back then, but I was, you know what I mean? Again, do your research. So this is not an anti-Lomachenko, because he's actually one of my favorites to watch. He's spectacular. He looked great in there on the Rios, the Bradley undercard. But I'm all about perspective, and that's important to me. Lomachenko looked sensational, but who the fuck was he fighting? I don't even know that guy. Like, I watch boxing thoroughly, constantly. I report boxing. I don't even know that dude. So it's not just a mere fact of looking good, it's who you look good against. Even in the main event, Bradley versus Rios, I know Rios. I know Bradley. Bradley got banged up in the 12th round of his last fight, switched trainers, and he was going in there against a guy who's a known tough guy with a chin, pressure style fight. You know what I'm saying? And again, if you get hurt by Vargas, then Rios can hurt you, especially since he had a 15-pound weight advantage. Like, you could say, oh, he wasn't prepared, all that, but there's an element of threat. So to me, I would be more impressed with a guy looking dominant against another known guy with some attributes to beat him. You know what I mean? Versus Lomachenko, he looked spectacular in there, and he was moving, he was punching his opponent at will. But what did that guy bring to the table? What was his forte? What was his strength? It was not like he's known for his power. It's not like he had this crazy resume where he's the amateur record killer and he was, you know what I mean, knocking out guys who had great amateur records. What is he known for? I don't know him for anything. So why would I praise him to that level when Lomachenko was being Lomachenko against a lesser guy? You know what I mean? Even on the Mayweather undercard, Lomachenko looked great in that fight. But who was that guy? You know what I'm saying? So it's not just looking good. It's like Leo Santa Cruz, I give him credit for looking good against a known guy like Abner Mares versus when he fought the State Farm worker on the Mayweather-Pacquiao undercard. I don't know that dude, you know what I'm saying? And it's not even just a matter of who I know. It's what did that guy bring to the table that could beat you, you know what I'm saying? But the problem I have is the agenda. Like, you have a guy like Lomachenko, decorated amateur record, background, two-time Olympic gold medalist. Same thing with Guillermo Rigondeaux. But the level of treatment is night and day. They took Guillermo Rigondeaux, who's also an Olympian, two-time gold medalist, and completely tarred and feathered him, blackballed him to the point where he's had to go to Japan and like nickel and dime. Fighters have avoided him, all kinds of stuff, and trying to get a fight. He's been stagnant in his career, and I don't think it's because of him. I think Top Rank didn't do a good job when they were like teaming up with Caribe Promotions to promote him. They also bashed him. Bob Arum saying HBO throws up when I mention Rigondeaux's name. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's not a way to promote somebody. So when I'm listening to the commentary on HBO about Vasyl Lomachenko, it's disgusting. Not that Lomachenko's not a good fighter, but again, when HBO likes a fighter, when they push a fighter, then it's so apparent because they go above and beyond to praise. But you got another, like I said, you got a guy like Rigondeaux who doesn't get that same treatment. You shit on Rigondeaux, you're making it like I actually had more fun. This is just me personally, and I like all styles. So don't try to put, oh, you just like technical, sweet side. No, I like all styles. Actually, one of my guilty pleasures is Ruslan Provodnikov. I just watched his fight. You know what I'm saying? And I like all styles. You can't narrow me down to one style. I like aggressive fighters. I like calculated fighters. I like power punchers. I like counter punchers. I just love boxing. And when I watch Rigondeaux versus Nonito Donaire, go back to my prediction. You know what? I'll play it for you. I'm from the Bay Area, just like Nonito Donaire. I picked Donaire at the time on my channel. Check the video. I picked Donaire to beat Rigondeaux. But me, as a boxing fan and aficionado and a man, I'm a man enough to admit when I was wrong. I thought Rigondeaux had a suspect chin and Donaire was going to clap him and expose it and probably stop him. I thought Donaire had equal speed and he was just much bigger and he just had that power. So, you know what I mean? I seen Rigondeaux and I respected Rigondeaux's game, but I really thought Donaire, not just because I'm from the Bay, I really thought Donaire was just too big for Rigondeaux. You know what I mean? And I thought Rigondeaux had a suspect chin based on him getting knocked down in some other fights and stuff. But Rigondeaux proved me wrong. But again, me being a man, I'm okay with that. I can say, okay, I was wrong with that because for every prediction that I get wrong, I get 2 or 3 right. You know what I'm saying? So it was a fun treat to see Rigondeaux do that performance. But let HBO tell it. They talk about how boring it is. And when I watch Rigondeaux, I don't see boring. You know what I'm saying? Bottom line is if his opponent is willing to fight, when they see the speed, they see the technique, they see the awkward southpaw angles and whatever that Rigondeaux presents, if they're willing to fight, then it's going to be action. It's just the fights like Joseph Egbeko where you're not going to really see any action. And that's because they become gun shy. Like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to let this little dude knock me out. You know what I'm saying? So they don't really throw. And this is with any fighter. If I know my boxing, this is with any fighter. It becomes harder and harder when you don't have a game opponent who's willing to open up and go for broke. If they're not willing to go for broke, it becomes harder for you to make that super action-packed statement without putting yourself in the risk. You know what I'm saying? You could do the Mickey Bay, John Molina, where you're clearly winning and then do some dumb, flashy stuff and then get knocked out. But that's stupid. You know what I mean? Watch Nonito Donaire versus Omar Narvaez, an Olympic medalist. He was super defensive and he wasn't really willing to engage. Therefore, that was probably one of Donaire's more boring performances, quote unquote, because it wasn't as action filled as a guy like Jorge Arce. Arce knows one mode. He's gonna come try to warrior. Like, he was hurt and he was like clapping his gloves together, like, yeah, come on, knowing he's badly hurt. You know what I'm saying? But there's just different types of fighters. But when you put Rigondeaux in that square circle, if the opponent is like an Amagasa who's like the warrior way and they're going to go out in their shield, then it's going to be action. And that's what you've seen in the Amagasa fight. He got knocked down twice, got back up, and started lumping up Amagasa. But you're not going to get that from Egbeko. So back to HBO and the commentary and Vasyl Lomachenko. He looked great. He was moving. He was creating angles. And it's just disgusting to hear some of the commentary. Like, one, Lomachenko is a hell of a fighter, but even this is coming from my personal opinion. I thought Lomachenko had more power than he does. But you notice when HBO is trying to push a fighter, they're always going to give more or less the benefit of the doubt. To me, Rigondeaux has way more crack and more power at 122 than Lomachenko has shown at 126. Now, that's okay because a win is a win. Sometimes you can break your opponent down, and it's not all about power. But HBO, let them tell it. They're like, oh, Lomachenko, and they're talking about like he just has this massive punching power. If you're beating up on a person like that and you had like Mike Tyson, Golovkin power or whoever, then it's not going to take 10 rounds. You know what I'm saying? But again, everybody has to fight. Floyd Mayweather, per his division, since he's moved up so much and he's typically fighting bigger guys, he doesn't always create a knockout. So that's okay, but call it what it is. You know what I'm saying? Mayweather's fighting bigger guys, so he doesn't always knock them out. He has brittle hands. Cool. But they're making it like Lomachenko just has this massive power. And it's just sickening to see the treatment that certain fighters get. And they always get the shadow of a doubt, the benefit of the doubt for certain fighters like Lomachenko. This is not against Lomachenko. Again, check my track record. I like Lomachenko, but the commentary is just repulsive to hear HBO and the fighters they push. They're always willing to go that extra mile. And as a boxing fan, just keep it real. And I notice little subtle things they do. Sometimes they don't want to mention Floyd Mayweather's name, so they're like the previous #1 pound for pound guy. It's just little subtle, sneaky, snarky things that they do, and it's just annoying as a boxing fan. Sometimes I just want to tune out. The only reason I don't put it on mute is because I don't want a quiet-ass room watching a fight. You know what I'm saying? I want to at least hear the punch, the grunts, the sound effects, the referee might say something, the bell. You know what I mean? That's the only reason I don't turn it off and put it on mute, other than Roy Jones. I really like Roy Jones. A lot of times he's correcting the fighters. Like in the Rios Bradley fight, Jim Lampley said, oh, look at Brandon Rios landed a hell of a body shot. And Roy Jones was like, no, Jim, that was a low blow. Like, they don't even know what they're talking about sometimes. I like Max Kellerman. I had the chance to interview him before. I like Roy Jones. Max Kellerman is sometimes on the fence. Like back in the day, I used to almost agree with everything Max Kellerman says, but he kind of has that company man where I'm going to say some other stuff to appease both sides of the fence. Roy Jones just kind of calls it how it is, and then Jim Lampley is just all over the place in my opinion. But again, I understand the product. I understand working business relationships. You want to promote Vasyl Lomachenko, but be realistic. That's all I ask, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not on my channel just talking about how great Rigondeaux is. I give Lomachenko props. I give whoever I feel is worthy of props and the praise that they're getting. You know what I'm saying? I give them the credit. So it's just, I like HBO from a production standpoint. Great specials, HBO Sports and Real Sports and 24/7's Face Off. I love all that stuff. Their production value is very high. But sometimes the commentary just throws me because it feels like they're really trying to push somebody. Like they'll make it like Zhao Shiming is the next. Oh, he has a whole China behind him and Olympic gold medalist. And I can tell you as a boxing fan, I made videos about this, that he was not the dude. He was not next. And we recently seen him lose, and we haven't heard from him since, really, right? But they're not willing to give that same credit to a guy like Rigondeaux, who keeps proving his worth. And look at even Rigondeaux versus like a Gennady Golovkin. Golovkin is a star. He looks hard to beat at middleweight, etc. He's a good fighter, but he's still proven less to me in more fights than Rigondeaux has. Rigondeaux has at least been in there with somebody who had momentum. Donaire, this is what people don't understand. Rigondeaux, when he fought Donaire, he was a smaller guy. Gennady Golovkin is not traditionally the much smaller guy where the guy's much taller and much bigger with power. You know what I'm saying? Rigondeaux versus Donaire. Donaire has speed, power, and size. When I watch Triple G, there might be a guy that's taller, like let's say Ishida. He was taller than Golovkin, but he has no cracks. He can't punch. He was a 154-pounder that moved up to middleweight. And some people want to make but he later moved on to heavyweight. I don't give a damn. Like, that's what he did after the fight. I'm talking about when he fought Golovkin. He was a 154-pounder. So that height goes out the window when the person has a chin and doesn't respect your power. Just like I told people Pacquiao-Algieri. I told you Algieri at that point was not an advanced enough boxer to fuck with Pacquiao. I told you guys that. And him being tall, I don't care if somebody's tall. It don't matter if you're tall, because there's some guys that are tall that don't fight tall. You know what I'm saying? Being tall, merely being tall, doesn't have nothing to do with it. It's technique, power, speed. You know what I mean? You can't just be some tall. You know what I mean? There's a guy who's 2 fights deep and he might be 6'3", and he might get slept by someone who's 5'10". It just depends on, you know what I mean, the experience level and what you bring to the table. Being tall is not the cure-all, you know what I mean? But when you look at Rigondeaux, that's why I say he's proven more to me, because he was the smaller guy, a guy who had equal speed, a guy who had equal or greater power, and a guy in Donaire who had not lost, had one loss in his career, was a pound-for-pound top 10 guy that was praised and hadn't lost since I think it was like his second pro fight. So he hadn't lost in 11 years. Tell me one guy that Triple G has fought to this point that had that. You know what I mean? David Lemieux, he fought for a vacant title. So he wasn't a challenger and beat a champion. He fought for an open, vacated belt. And he didn't even defend it before immediately facing Golovkin. So that's good. He at least had power where he could have hurt, but he didn't have the technique. He had been stopped before, etc. So in my opinion, Rigondeaux has proven more, yet he gets shitted on more. And it's not even just that. Joseph Igbeko, it was a solid guy per division. And the other guys, top guys, Frampton, Quiggs, and guys like Leo Santa Cruz, they don't want to fight Rigondeaux. So it's crazy to hear HBO's commentary and how they outcast the fighters they don't like or that are on the opposing side, the Heyman side, or whatever. Like, to me, I think Teddy Atlas said, "Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining." And out of respect for the sport of boxing, keep it real. Like all that fight game stuff and Gotti list, rest in peace to Lightning Thunder, Arturo Gotti. But like, come on, miss me with all that, because at the end of the day, you're force feeding your agenda. You know what I'm saying? You put a guy like Glenn Tapia on the Gotti list. Okay, he has an exciting style, but he also got stopped in his last fight. You know what I'm saying? He's cool, but he got stopped by Kirkland too. You know what I'm saying? He has 2 stoppage losses. So like, what the Gotti list is cool, but what is that really proving? Like, to me, I want to know who's the best of the best. Who's the future? Is it like Terrence Crawford, Oscar Valdez? Is it Anthony Joshua? You know what I mean? Can Tyson Fury beat Klitschko? Like, I want to know these types of questions. I don't care about who's middle of the road and just has heart. You know what I mean? Brandon Rios had heart, and then he ended up getting stopped because of lack of discipline in his last fight. You know what I'm saying? And I like Rios, met Rios, everything, but I'm just calling it how I see. Rios is a good fighter. He's solid. He's given us great fights. But the fact is, you have to be disciplined as a fighter. You have to care. You have to treat this like a job. This is not like, oh, let me just make $500,000 real quick and then go back to the fun, like fantasy land and partying bitches and shit like that. Like, this is a disciplined sport. So at least pay the respect to the skilled fighters who are risking their lives. Pritchard Colon, you know what I'm saying? He's in the hospital. Guys like Magomed Abdusalamov and stuff, comas, and you know what I mean? Their lives are forever altered. You know what I mean? Even if Pritchard Colon, hopefully he makes a speedy recovery, but he still has that memory. You know what I'm saying? So why not be realistic? I don't care if they're on Heyman's side and you're HBO. You don't have to, like, I'd rather HBO not talk about the Heyman fighters if you're going to lie to the public. You know what I'm saying? Just don't talk about them. Don't give them any shine. That's cool. That's your prerogative as a business. But don't tell me like Rigondeaux ain't that and then praise Lomachenko. Like Lomachenko, Rigondeaux, that's a good fight. That could be 50-50. Both illustrious amateur backgrounds and stuff. But don't highly praise one guy and give me this biased rhetoric about only the fighters you like. And lastly, the thing that bothers me so much about HBO commentary is a lack of consistency. What one fighter does that's on their quote-unquote agenda, someone that they're pushing, it's beautiful boxing. For example, if Roman Chocolatito is defensive for the first 3 rounds and then he like counter punches and moves or whatever, it's great. Vasyl Lomachenko, he goes 10 rounds and he's boxing, he's sidestepping, he's using his athleticism and superior speed. This is excellent boxing. This is, oh, you could tell he has an illustrious amateur background. He's doing what he's supposed to. Yes, he is doing good, but also consider who he's in there with. Versus Mayweather will be in there with, let's say, Pacquiao, the person you name the fighter of the decade, and someone who was on his level, and then he does the same thing, athleticism, speed, doesn't let Pacquiao close distance, keeps him at bay with the jab, just like Gennady Golovkin took a power puncher and made him look basic because he didn't let him get in close, he didn't let him get in range by utilizing a jab. Golovkin did that with Lemieux. Mayweather would do that with his opponents, and all of a sudden it's boring. This is underwhelming. Why isn't there not enough action? But it was perfectly fine when Triple G kept Lemieux at bay, a fighter you're promoting. He kept him at bay with the jab and then opened up a little bit more. Mayweather does the same thing. The only difference is Triple G has fought at middleweight since he was an amateur. He was a middleweight champion, you know what I'm saying? And Mayweather has went up 5 weight classes, so he's not the biggest guy. So if you watch a Mayweather fight, it usually breaks down like this. Mayweather computes his data first 2-3 rounds, and then later on in the fight, you see him really pull away and show that the other guy's not on the level. Like Robert Guerrero, it was pretty even for the first 2 or 3 rounds, not too much going on. Same thing with the Canelo fight, and then by the 11th round, Mayweather makes Canelo look like a schoolboy. Triple G did the same thing. He waited till he had figured out David Lemieux and discouraged him so much, and then he started opening up with more. The difference is Triple G's fighting at a weight where he is already powerful. He hasn't had to move up, and you know what I'm saying? So he's already strong at this weight division. That's like Mayweather if he stayed down in the lower weight classes. So it's just not the same. And when you hear HBO, when they tell it, they don't tell you these things. It's Vasyl Lomachenko, he's creating angles. This is great. Or Pacquiao, he's boxing more versus Rios coming off a KO to the Marquez. That's great boxing. But let somebody else who isn't on their hit list, that's on their shit list, then all of a sudden Mickey Vasquez and Vladimir Klitschko and Mayweather and Rigondeaux and everybody else that they do not promote or have a working relationship with is pure shit. They're on the anti-Gotti list. They're boring. They're not exciting enough. They're not doing it for the fans. But when it's a fighter they promote, Chocolatito, Triple G, Lomachenko, or whoever, you hear that. And even like the Timothy Bradley, I didn't hear him give Bradley as much props for what he was doing with the guy who was 15 pounds bigger than him and a known puncher. Bradley was besting Rios at every weight, you know what I'm saying, even on the inside, and that's supposed to be Brandon Rios' forte. And instead you hear things like, oh, you can't let Rios sit on the couch because this and that. Like, why? He's a professional athlete. He gets paid handsomely. Why can't he sit on the couch for 8 months and come back and look superior? You know what I'm saying? So I'm just sick of it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. HBO commentary, drop it. Let me know what you guys think. Who is the best on the panel? Who's the worst? Why? Make sure you like my video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.